Okay, next on the chopping block is the system screen. Now, the system screen is found through this solar system button up here next to the Union Jack. And this button here, this system here, shows you everything about a specific system. So we have Sol selected at the moment, and also shows it from the perspective of a specific race as well, because there is stuff that you can you only might know about it from a specific race perspective. Age of the system is how old the star is. You can see that it's 5 giga-years, which is a billion years. When it was discovered, so this is for Sol obviously going to be the start of the game, but for example Bethars, we can see that it's actually 9th of February 2072. Now the age of this system does actually matter for determining what kind of stuff you get, because the age determines a bunch of mineral planet types and stuff like that. Generally it can be ignored, but the older the planet is, the I think more gas giants it has or more rocky body it has. I forget how it works, but generally you can safely ignore it, but just keep in mind that age is not 100% irrelevant. JP survey location cost, so all the jump points in a system cost the same amount, but it does vary from system to system. So in Sol it's 400, in Amorphia it's 280. So it does vary from system to system. All right, over here we have the jump point survey, so the percentage of jump points that have been surveyed within the system, and this is the stellar body or the system body survey rating. Now this is actually a lie for Sol. For some reason it's 0%. You can see here that it's actually 100% for all the other systems that we have actually surveyed. Well, we haven't surveyed Quelor because there's hostiles in it, but for some reason it's 0%. No idea why. It's just lying to us. But generally speaking, this is where you can see the survey status of the system. You can also see in the galactic map, but in here you can see it on a per system basis. You can see here you can set the species that you are wanting to compare the colony cost against. And also you can see the requirements for that particular species. We only have humans, but there they are. In here you have the star selection. Now you have to select the star that you're looking at. So if we go have a look at Balasar, we can see that there are 4 stars, A, B, C, and D. And only A actually has anything around it. So we have to have A selected to see what planets are around it. If we go have a look at something like Quelor, we can see Quelor A has 2 planets and a moon, and Quelor C also has stuff, 3 planets and a bunch of moons in it. So keep in mind that you need to check all your planets to see what's actually on them. Make sure you check all the stars up here. Over here, so here we have the star and planetary summary. We have the name of the star, we have the spectral class, the diameter, the mass, and the luminosity. Now the mass and the luminosity are relative to Sol, so you can see here that they're 1. If we go have a look at Wenhedene, we can see that the stars are actually really, really small. So Wenhedene A is a little bit smaller and about half the luminosity of our own star, whereas Wenhedene B looks to be a brown dwarf possibly, with 0.04 mass. So yeah, we have a little brown dwarf here, and then G7 is main sequence. So it's very, very cool stuff. Okay, so that's the mass and luminosity relative to our own star. Parent star is listed if it's a binary system and one of the stars orbits the other. Period is the orbital period and the orbital distance of that particular star. If we go have a look again at Quelor, you can see that Quelor B and C both orbit Quelor A at a distance of 2.4 billion and 435 million. So if we go have a look at Quelor now, Quelor, so there's Quelor A, which is a G2V, and then we also have, oh, that's a Lagrange point. Where's the star? So there's Quelor B all the way out there. And then Quelor C is, I believe that's it there. Is that it? Yep, there's Quelor C. So Aurora C is a tiny little star here with a bunch of planets really, really close to it. So yeah, so that tells you the information about the actual stars themselves. And over here we have the more useful information, which is planets, moons, asteroids, comets, habitable and near habitable planets around each individual star. So you can see that Aurora A has 2 planets and 1 moon, and all 3 are near habitable. So colony cost 2. And Aurora C has 3 planets, 17 moons, 10 asteroids, and 1 near habitable planet. None have habitable. If we go have a look at Sol, we can see that there are 19 planets, 125 moons, 480 asteroids, 28 comets, and 3 of them are habitable with 1 near habitable. So we can see here that Mercury is colony cost 0.5. We also have Earth and Mars at 0. 0.15 is considered habitable. So even though it's a little bit on the cold side, it is considered habitable. And then we have 1 near habitable, which is Luna. I believe this one here is exactly 2, because we also have Phobos and Deimos, which are 20. Don't really have, like, well, we actually got a couple of 2s. But yeah, so we have a couple of near habitables. So how do we actually look at this then? So we can have a couple of filters up here. So we can show all moons, only show moons with minerals, or hide all the moons entirely. We can also show all the asteroids. You notice that we now have 480 extra records. Asteroids are usually off by default. Much more useful is asteroids with minerals. So we can see that we have a small handful of asteroids that actually have minerals on them, or we can hide them entirely. We can do the same with comets, all with minerals, and hide entirely. We can also set a couple of flags over here. So we can have the mineral flag. So an M over here, it signifies that a body has been surveyed and has a mineral content. We can also set the no survey flag. We've surveyed everything here, but if we go to Quelor, we can set the no survey flag. We can also set the ground potential flag. So you can see that Uvina A2 here is M4. That 4 is the ground survey potential. So there is no point doing a ground survey on anything that doesn't have any actual potential. The potential goes from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest potential and 1 being the lowest potential. We'll talk about ground surveys once we actually get to that. OM eligible will put an E next to anything that is eligible for orbital mining based on your technology for diameters. So you can see here the Uvina A2 Moon 1 is currently not eligible. That is because I think we're at orbital 160. But yeah, if we get this technology over here, then this moon will actually become eligible, because it has a diameter that's smaller than our technology. But this will flag anything that's orbital mining eligible. And we can show the max colony cost over here. Not entirely sure exactly how that plays out. I'm not really seeing any change. Yeah, I'm not seeing any change. Not entirely sure what that does, or what it's supposed to do. All right, in here we have the breakdown of the actual bodies themselves. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Luna, Mars, Phobos, Deimos, Ceres, Jupiter, yada 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 yada. This is the name of the actual body, the original name of the body itself. So no matter how many colonies you stick on it or what you name the colonies, this is the name of the physical body itself. You have the various flags up here. The planet type, so Mercury, Venus, and Earth are all terrestrial planets, as is Mars. Luna is a small terrestrial moon, whereas Phobos and Deimos are just small moons. We got Ceres, which is a dwarf planet. We've got Jupiter, which is a gas giant. We got some small moons, a regular moon, a small terrestrial moon, another gas giant, that's Saturn there. We've got a large moon, Triton, over here. Pluto is a little dwarf planet over here. We've got a couple of planets. Our Minerva is a super Jovian, so it's a super gas giant all the way out there. You also have comets and asteroids, which we currently have hidden. So that tells you what type of body it is, just to give you a rough idea of what you're dealing with. Colony cost is the current colony cost based on the selected species. So Mercury has been terraformed in this game down to 0.15. Earth is 0. Mars has been terraformed down to 0. And you can see here whether, that, for example, Metis, whatever, is a 6.3 colony cost, and the LG flag means that it's a low gravity. So the gravity is below the acceptable threshold of 0.1 Gs, which is listed. Where is the gravity? There it is. It's 0.00212 Gs. So yeah, that's basically non-existent gravity. Here you have a list of populations that you know about. Now these are our populations. So we can see here that, and we renamed them because it's a part of the stream, so it's got weird names. Mercury, the Mercury colony is called Red Brick. Venus colony is called Hell I'd Like to Mine. Earth colony has been renamed to New Novus. Luna's colony is Conjecture, even though there's nobody actually living on it. And Mars colony is called Over There. You can also see what the populations of each colony are. The terrain over here is determined by planet type and environment. Mercury is a desert, Earth is a temperate forest, Mars is a steppe, and Io is a mountain. You also get... No, we don't really have any others. You can also see your civilian mining colonies as well. Yeah, so the terrain type determines bonuses for ground units, bombardment, that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that once we get to ground units. Hydro is the hydrographic extent of the colony. So Mercury has 18.5%, and it's a liquid instead of solid. 30% for Mars. Accidentally ran away with, forgot about getting the liquid under control in there. And we got this 69.7 of Earth. If we go have a look at Lancashire, because Lancashire A3, for example, it's a terrestrial planet, but its temperature is in -97. So it's ice fields because it has a 75% ice sheet coverage. So that's frozen. We also have crustal hydrographics of 30%. So all these factors play into terrain features and habitability. Over here we have the atmosphere. So it's a Phrygian oxygen atmosphere. 86% of the atmosphere is Phrygian to try and keep the planet from boiling itself. Down here you can see a breakdown. We'll get to that in a second. Venusian atmosphere is named after Venus, and it's any atmosphere that has a monstrous amount of pressure. So you can see, I think it's like 60 atmospheres before it gets to Venusian. I'm not really sure what the threshold is, but if you have a stupid amount of atmospheric pressure, then it's a Venusian atmosphere. Earth is a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, so primary element is nitrogen, secondary is oxygen, and Mars is an Astusium oxygen atmosphere of 70 and 30%. The oxygen here you can see that is 0.1, so you know what you're dealing with. Pressure is the total combined pressure of all gases in the atmosphere relative to Earth pressure. Temperature is the average surface temperature of the body. So we can see that Earth is 14.2, and that again is related to this. Mercury is 11.7, which is once again entirely habitable, so that's fine. The reason why it's 0.15 is actually because the water is a little bit on the low side, because you need liquid to be 20%. That's why the colony cost is 15. And yeah, I couldn't be bothered because the max population is already higher than what the planet can support based on size. Anyway, so that's the average temperature. Venus has not been terraformed at all, so the average temperature is 627, which is why the colony cost is 25. Although the temperature isn't really as much of is almost as much of a factor. The actual reason is 25 pressures. Luna is a chilly -18. So that plays into that 33 temperature factor. We talked about all this in the terraforming video. But yeah, this is where you find the temperature of the body itself. The gravity based on G's, once again, entirely based around Earth, because that's where we spawn. But yeah, this is your G load on the body. You can see that some of them get really, really tiny. And I'm not sure if I have any monstrously giant ones. Yeah, Minerva, there we go. You can't put any people on it, but Minerva has a 12.46 G gravity at the surface. The distance here is the distance from its parent star. So Earth is 150 million kilometers, whereas Mercury is 58. Diameter is the diameter of the body itself. Earth is 12.756 thousand kilometers in diameter. And everything else kind of scales off that. Mercury, as you can see, is pretty tiny, and as is Mars. Tidal locking is whether the planet or moon is tidally locked to its parent body. So you can see that Mercury is tidally locked to the sun, whereas Luna is tidally locked, but that M signifies that it's tidally locked with its parent body because it's a moon. Yes, has an impact on max population. Yes'm does not. So keep that in mind, which is why Luna, despite being smaller than Mercury, is able to support about 3 times the population. So yeah, so max pop matters. Here you can see the max population based on the diameter and tidal locking and stuff like that. So that will tell you how many people you can actually stick on it as a workforce and stuff like that. Tectonics level, which kind of matters, but only a little. Magnetic field, which I believe has no impact whatsoever. Greenhouse factor, which is the total positive greenhouse factor of all greenhouse gases. It locks with a hard limit of 3, which is why even though Venus is super duper crushing, it's only a 3. Albedo level of the body, the day period, how long the day is, the year period, how many Earth years it is to go for an orbit. Io, for example, has a 42-hour day and a year. Now, the year for a moon is the year around its parent body around Jupiter. So that is why these years are not exactly identical to Jupiter. So these are the years, basically, this is how long it takes to do an orbit around its parent body. Fairly straightforward. And a day is how long it takes to actually rotate. Obviously, when these are identical or near identical, that's when you get tidal locking. Although Mercury is actually a little bit off, but it's still tidally locked. Mass of the body, density of the body, these two combine, or these should combine to get the gravity rating. Escape velocity is not really relevant, all things considered. Neither is the actual tilt. The base temp over here is the raw temperature based on the distance from the parent star. And radiation and dust level for when you blow the shit out of it. And this here is the Lagrange point time. So this is how many years or how long it's going to take for a stabilization ship to stabilize a Lagrange point around that planet. Some bodies cannot have a stable Lagrange point, others can. Interestingly enough, Earth is one of them. It takes 5 years, but you can set up a Lagrange point right near Earth. Very, very cool, very, very handy. And setting up a Lagrange point around Earth and Jupiter is a good way to hop out of system. You can also set one up around Saturn. Most gas giants can be set up with a Lagrange point, but Lagrange points let you hop around much more efficiently, so they can be useful, and there are fun stuff that you can do with them. Down here you can see the jump point breakdown. So we have 4 jump points in Sol. These are the distance from the sun to get to the jump point. This is the bearing from the sun, with north or 0 being straight up. And this is where the jump point is actually going and whether it has a jump gate, whether it's got a stabilized, whether it's stable or not. In here you have the mineral breakdown of the body. So if you select a planet with minerals, this tells you what minerals are actually on the body once you have surveyed them. If you haven't surveyed, so if we go to Quelor, no survey. That tells you also whether they've been surveyed or not here. You have over here the breakdown of colony cost. This is the same stuff you can see in the terraforming window, and the, again, breakdown of atmosphere and temperature details. So all the same stuff you see in the terraforming window that we talked about. Over here, you can rename the system. If you don't like the name, you click the button, you give it a new one. Keep in mind, for example, a system like Balasar, if we stick like 2 eyes on it, it changes these, right? But if you go to Sol, if it already has a name, it doesn't change these. So if a body already has a name, it doesn't get renamed. It only gets renamed if it uses the default one. Select name allows you to pick one from a list. Rename body allows you to rename the body itself. So if we don't like the name series, we can rename it to something else. Rename system all renames all the bodies based on the new name. Well, rename system all renames all the stars, I believe. The rename body all renames these. Create colony allows you to create a colony, so we can just drop a people on there. There's the short name again. Band body, which places a little B, that stops any civilians or basically anybody from going to that body. So it stops the civilians dead, but I think it also affects things like surveys and stuff like that. There are certain default on-standing orders and stuff like that that will ignore a banned body. So if you have something that if you don't want your ships going to a place, you can ban the body there. And all system view switches it to everything. So this is a probably rarely used. I'm not sure anybody actually uses this at all. But this gives you a search of all colonies, right? So you can flag it for acceptable gravity only. You can exclude gas giants. Flag it as oxygen present, flag it as water present, hydro extent to 20%, not in an alien system, below the max colony cost that you can define, and above a minimum population level that you can define, and whether there's a mineral present. And you can also sort by orbital distance, colony cost, hydro extent, minerals, and 2 levels of sorting. And this is basically the colony finder. Right? It's called all system view, but this is the colony finder or colonizable finder. And this will give you all the easily colonizable bodies, assuming you use the default settings, easily colonizable bodies or ready to colonize bodies in the entire galaxy that you are aware of. Filters are still present. For example, if you don't care about hydrographic extent or water presence, because you know that you can just stick terraforming in there, this will find you. It'll find all of your colonies as well, especially ones that fall within the thing. But for example, Aluyan B1, it's a colony cost 2 jungle mountain with very high liquid that we can suck out. But like, you can flag it and stick a colony in there. So this will find you easily colonizable planets and filter those out across the entire galaxy. So if you're looking to colonize somewhere new, this is a good place to look at, because it's just an extremely handy little function to find easily colonizable bodies without having to go through each individual system and each individual star, individual system. So use it. It's handy. It's there. Don't forget where it is. Okay, I think that about covers the system display. Bit of a longer video today for this one, but it is a very complex and complicated, although yeah, no, it's complicated. This is a more complicated system window, so yeah. Yeah, that is it for this window then.